welcome to my channel. In today's video I am going to be sculpting a commission. Actually, this was a commission. This was what somebody sent me in and this is what they wanted, and they wanted a moon howling wolf or a howling moon wolf. And so very excited. I love wolves, I love moons. It's a great combination. Going to see what it's going to look like. I'm going to take some inspiration from Luna from My Little Pony. Love that show. And so moon wolves, let's see what we can do with the dark blues. And I'm so excited. I have not done a full wolf sculpture for a while. So this is going to be so fun to do. So to start off with, I always do my armatures. I have got a video on my channel that goes through the process of how I make my wolf armatures. I didn't want to make it in this video because I didn't want to make it too long, but on that video it explains everything on how I make this specific wolf armature. So for the clay, I'm using Fimosoft in the colour Brilliant Blue. I like to use a base colour clay for the sculpture and then paint on top of it afterwards. It saves on paint, and the coloured clay is like the same price as the flesh coloured clay or the grey clay. Normally I used to use Sculpey. It was Sculpey Super Sculpey, and it was also Sculpey Firm, I think it was called, and that used to be a bit cheaper than the coloured, but it makes no difference now, so I'll just use a coloured clay, and the coloured clay is going to be a colour that I want most of the sculpture to be. So to start off with, I'll just slap on a thin layer of blue clay everywhere. I did take the tail off to save it for later. It'll make sculpting the body a whole lot easier. And then also once I've done the body, it'll help with the correct placement of the tail on the bum. Because if I was to keep it on the body, it will be a lot lower down. And it'll kind of be sticking out a little bit lower. So if I take the tail off, I can stick it higher up so it's coming kind of out of its spine. Rather than like coming out of its, I don't know, just lower. So once the base is cooked, I will then build it up. So I'll build up the shapes in certain places. So for example, I'll build up the thigh and the butt, or I'll build up the chest area. Sometimes even after I build up an area and then I bake it, I'll end up going back after I've worked on another part. So for example, if I'm happy with the chest and then I'll work on an arm, but then the arm could look a little bit too big in comparison, so then I can go back to the chest and then I can build that up so that it matches sort of the size of the chest as well, so the arm and the chest go together. But this is why I love pre-baking. You can always add to it, and you don't have to be afraid of going back and adding more if you're not happy with it, and you can always remove the clay as well. For the head, I'll make a round ball and then I'll add the eyes. It kind of helps me to place the muzzle on once I've got the eyes, so it's kind of like drawing a head and drawing the guidelines for it. This kind of is the same way but in clay. So I use up strips to build up the face, and this also helps to attach the cylinder shape I made for the snout. I'll add clay to the sides to build up the cheeks. You know, make them nice and fluffy and bigger and big cheeks on the side, otherwise I'm just going to get a very flat looking face. Next I'll make a little triangle for the nose, and that helps me to gauge where the mouth goes as well, and then with a very, very sharp blade I cut into the snout to make the lower and the bottom jaw. So when I cut in, I cut quite far down from the top jaw, so the bottom lip doesn't have much on it, it's more the top one. I can always add more clay to the bottom of the jaw, but normally you find that you've got to go quite far down from the nose and the top jaw to make that bigger than the bottom lip. Once the head is somewhat done, I'll start adding to the back and sculpting the shoulder blades, and then whilst the clay is raw, I'll start making the fur with the ball tool. the paw, I like to add a croissant shape around the bottom of the leg, and then I'll cut 4 lines in for the toes, and then I build them up to make them look like little paws. When I'm happy with the body, it's time to add the tail back in. I use foil to add some bulk, and then I'll put a thin base layer on before baking. I also use a drill to drill a hole in, and then with the armature wire inside, I then like to put that inside of the hole with some epoxy glue to help it stick in there. I must admit, for later sculptures, I'm definitely going to make this wire a lot thicker because it's quite difficult when the wire's only very thin going into the body. So to make it a bit more sturdy, I'm going to add thicker armature wire. Onto the airbrushing. I got this for my birthday, so I am such a noob with airbrushing, but oh my gosh, it is so amazing. I don't have any idea if I'm using it properly, but it already looks so much better than hand painting, especially when I'm doing a gradient. I looked at me hand painting sculptures, and at the time I thought they were okay, but looking at the difference between the smoothness of an airbrush, it's night and day. Like, the old ones look dirty because you can see all the brush strokes, but the airbrush, it's so much quicker, so much easier, way better. So I'm going to be using this. I can't wait to start using this on more projects. Also as well, if you don't want to get paint on somewhere, I just use PVA glue. It's amazing. It's like masking tape or masking fluid even, but cheap. And you slather that on where you want. So I'm doing it on the eyes. And then you paint, you do whatever, and then you can just peel it off, and it peels the paint off, and you haven't got paint, and you don't have to scratch it off. So for the tail, each piece of fur is made, and then I'll stick it onto the tail. And then after each colour, I like to bake it so I don't smoosh it by accident. So with the white tip, I'll make all of the white first, and then I'll bake it, and then I'll make all the light blue, and then I'll bake it, and then I'll make the purple, and then I'll bake it. Sometimes I like to be a bit of a rebel, and I'll do like 3 colours, depending on where they are, where the placement is. Also, as well, I like the fur to touch the floor so that it gives it a bit more stability. I have tried making a tail where it comes off the floor and it's got a gap between the tail and the floor. This never works. When I'm baking it, it will crack and fall. So I always recommend sort of making sure that it actually touches the floor. But when you're making the foil and the thin base, you don't want that to touch the floor, because then you won't have any room for the fur, and then it'll squish on the floor. So it's a very delicate thing to do. But I think I've got it. Sometimes I like to do them upside down, because then you don't want the piece of fur that's touching the floor to then squish in. Because it will, because the weight of the tail will press this down. I know, it's happened to me so many times. I also like to go up in a gradient, so I like to go from white and then right up to the colour of the body. And I don't know, I really like that kind of effect of it. So for this wolf, I wanted it to have sort of a mane, and so this is kind of a new little thing that I've tried out. So I'll roll out 2 different colours into sort of tapered sausages, and then I will stick them together, and then I'll curl a tip. And I'll curl the tip in lots of different directions so that it gives it a bit more, I don't know, of a maney look, I guess you could say. So to make the shiny bits, I use pearl powder, and you can brush it onto raw clay, and then it stays when you bake it. And also for the stars, that's just confetti. So I just use Mod Podge. I did it with a ball tool and just dotted it around and then stuck on little star confetti bits. And then lastly, I had this beautiful moon necklace, but I thought it would look amazing on this wolf. So I just attached that to the neck and used some epoxy glue so that it's all attached, and these little star charms as well. So there she is, she's all completed, and I must admit, how good does it look? Like, not to toot my own horn, but I've loved doing this sculpture. I've absolutely loved it. I love like finding out things and incorporating new things, and definitely jewellery. I definitely think I'm going to incorporate jewellery in my new sculptures in the future. Really like that little aspect of it, and I got loads of little star charms as well, so I'll have to figure out what to do with all of those. But I loved this wolf so much that I actually made a mould. I love this wolf so much, and there were so many possibilities that I thought of what else I could do if I had this wolf. And so I made a silicone mold of it. Look at the size of this bad boy. Look at the size. Like, I used about 5 kilograms of silicone. Not the best way to do a silicone mold, by the way. Just got a little packing peanut on there squished because it's so heavy. Yeah, not the best way to do a silicone mold. I just did it as a 1-part mold. Look at that, look at that. And my God, let me just put this down because it's so heavy. Jeez, very heavy. And so I wanted to make it because I just, when I was sculpting it, you know, you can see other possibilities and you're like, oh, what other colour combinations can I do? And I really wanted to try them out, but doing a full sculpt from armature up until clay takes a lot of time. It really does take a lot of time, especially when you're in full-time work as well. And it's like, I just want to try other different things. So I made the the silicone mold for the body, and then I'm just gonna see what else I can make. But look at these, look, I've made two other bodies. I'm so like excited to do them. I don't know what colours I'm gonna do them yet. We'll see on there. But so now I've got these ones and now I can make more molds from it and more casts. And yeah, I'm excited to see what other colour combinations I can do. I've also, as well, with this sculpture, this is something that I've really wanted to get into and start doing in the future. I've actually made a step-by-step ebook on it. So sometimes in these videos I don't feel as though I get across everything that I want to, and sometimes I feel like I miss certain things out. But I think in an ebook, if I went step by step, picture by picture, it might be a little bit easier for people to follow along. So this is something that I'm wanting to do more of with my sculptures, is to make these ebooks or these workbooks. And so if you're a patron, you automatically get these ebooks that I've made, but I do also have them for sale on Etsy. And yeah, just if you wanted to have a look and see more step by step and more in depth into what I'm thinking when I'm making it at the time, you know, maybe have a look. And anything that supports the channel, supports me and makes me be able to make more of these, and I absolutely love doing this, and I thank you so much for all the support that you've given me as well. So yeah, so that's it for this video. I've really enjoyed this project, and again, I hope in the future that I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with these walls. How excited! But yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Bye bye, guys!